Jared and Denise are going to be talking about advocating for diversity and equity inclusion. They can introduce themselves, and off you go.
Wonderful. Hello.
Hi.
Jared, I'm delighted to be in conversation with you. I want you to mainly do most of the talking. I'll ask you some questions, but I'll just say I'm Rabbi Denise. I was trained by the ISHA. I'm a secular humanist rabbi. And Jared Jackson runs Jews in All Hues. And my first question is tell us about you and Jews in All Hues. So that will be a good way to introduce yourself.
Okay, well, before I do that, I just want to say it's lovely seeing you again. You and I met years ago, like when you had shorter hair and you were still in rabbinical school. Um, so, yes. um, about me, I am a black multi-heritage Jew. I am a Philadelphia-born person, but grew up in New Jersey. Please don't hold that against me. Um, and I still live in Philadelphia right now with my family, my 5 year old and my wife, who is not 5 years old. Um, and I started Jews in All Hues as a project in 2008 or 2009. It was just a roaming conference for multi-heritage Jews, Jews of color, Jews by choice, Jews through adoption, um, people who had one parent who is of another faith tradition or not, right? Um, and we just wanted to start a conversation around what it meant to be othered in the Jewish community, but also have spaces where we could celebrate who we are. And that evolved into an actual organization in 2013. And since then, we've been doing diversity, equity, inclusion consulting, leadership development, and holding events and other spaces and initiatives for Jews of color in particular, but not excluding other multi-heritage Jews. Um, and there was this one point last year, during the, I don't know, pandemic that we're still in, where my wife, who has a ton of cantorial training from Gratz College and a master's in Jewish studies, came to me and said, I think it's finally time to do High Holy Day services. And I had been railing against it for years. And so we finally did that, and again, we're going to do it again this year, and it's going to be all led by Jews of color. And so not only are we working with Jewish camps, JCCs, synagogues, other Jewish organizations like Honeymoon Israel, to transform Jewish spaces to be anti-racist, to be basically pro-human in many ways, shapes, and forms. We are also piloting other programs so that we can have those who may not engage with institutional life still find a home, identity home, and hopefully together begin to thrive.
Beautiful. What an amazing amount of work you're doing. So I think that's all awesome. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are. And I'll just say my way into this question is that I was just doing a different session, and a Jew of color put in the chat, it can be very, very difficult to walk into a space when nobody else looks like you, a Jewish space. And I said, yeah, that's really real. And so my question for you is, and I realize it's both and it's not either or. But from your perspective, are folks wanting spaces where Jews of color are in leadership positions, where they're in the majority, where people do look like them? Or are folks just wanting to be able to walk into any Jewish space and have it be more actively anti-racist? And again, it's both and, but what's your read on the temperature of where a lot of folks are at right now?
Yeah, I would say on the Jew of color side, there's a real hunger for not only affinity spaces in the way that there has been in the past, but not as frequent. But also, nowadays, diversity is its own type of currency. It's whether or not a community will actually matter, in my mind. And so there are lots of Jews of color who are pushing Jewish organizations and the philanthropic community to be more representative of us. And even Pew, in the recent study that was released, I mean, maybe not for older generations, but definitely for like Gen Xers and younger, that we do make up a solid 15% of the community. So that's a significant amount. That's nothing to swat away or anything like that. If you want to cut off 15% of your own body, I mean, that's your choice, but I think you'd be better off carrying that 15% with you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just as you say, diversity is a currency. Even in the title of this session, I've been having a lot of conversations about even the term diversity, equity, and inclusion, which often gets smooshed to DEI. And then it just sounds like a thing you do. We do DEI, we have a DEI committee and I worry that it becomes a box to check. And because people are concerned, oh, I can't, we can't be so exclusionary anymore because it's going to be bad for our bottom line, that they make moves that seem like they're inclusive, but they're not doing the work to become fully anti-racist. So I bet you have thoughts about that.
Yes, in short. So doing any work to be anti-racist without an anti-racist goal is performative at best and damaging on many levels. If you don't believe in diversity, if you don't believe basically in humanity and Jewish peoplehood, if you are wanting to say certain things behind the scenes but look all cheery, I would rethink what community actually is, because the majority of Jewish spaces, well, the history of Jews in the United States is that, for hundreds of years, our people have been buying into, adding to, putting it in this particular bank account of white supremacy. And only recently have we, in good numbers, or in okay numbers, really, like, tried to move the needle, right? And I know everyone goes back to the 1950s and 1960s, and they mention that one rabbi who showed up 2 weeks late. But walking over a bridge is not doing the work. Doing the work is doing the work. It's inglorious. It's totally worth it. Right? It's not something that you shy away from necessarily. You can get triggered. There is danger involved. I speak as somebody who has gotten death threats from other Jews for doing this work. And I know you said that this gets smushed into DEI. Well, I think there should be some type of reckoning with just the practical definitions of that, right? People apply for grants all the time to do DEI work with no intention of really doing DEI work down deep, right? And everything starts with the internal, right? Everything starts with the one person, right? And like, every community is made of singular people acting together, right? And as we say, like, love is a verb, right? Well, so is racism, right? Racism is a verb. It's not anything that is just an ethereal, whatever, thought while you're high or something like that. Um, it's a verb. It has actions. It is actions, like small and large, right? Even though I don't really use the term microaggressions, because every aggression has a butterfly effect. So it may be small to you on the side of the person who is the perpetrator, but on the receiving end, it becomes sustained throughout someone's life. I can still remember the things that were said to me um, when I was the first time I was like put into a jail cell as a 5-year-old. You know, uh, like those things, like people dismiss because they call them microaggressions, but for people like myself or anyone who has received any type of bias from people, it's not small.
Um, Thanks for, I think it's useful to hear. I think a lot of folks who have white privilege don't have a good sense of the lived experience of people who are black or and sometimes otherwise racialized. So I think that's really brave of you, and thank you for that. I'm so sorry about the racism you've experienced, both
It
outside
wasn't
and
from
here.
you, so I say the same thing from people who say like I'm sorry, like this person died. It's like, did you cause their death? That's what I want to know.
But you know what? I think it is a little bit related because I do identify as somebody who has white privilege, and so while I'm not directly responsible for the things that have happened to you, I do benefit from a system of white supremacy, and I also am
Oh no,
targeted
no,
by
no.
white supremacy.
I agree with you on that, right? But I'm just saying about the I'm sorry for racism
Yeah.
thing. Like, um, somebody being sorry for racism. That's you know, let's have a conversation. Let's get to know one another. I think that's better than you know um, saying I'm sorry for racism.
Yeah, I hear you. And I think what you were saying earlier is very important about how change starts on the individual level. And it seems to me that Judaism provides an opportunity, not exclusively Judaism, other religions and spiritual practices too, but since our frame is Judaism, you have to be spiritually strong to do the work of anti racism. That it seems to me that there is a growing way of talking about this that it will really serve you to have your own cultural and spiritual practice so that you can approach these difficult issues and conversations from a place of humility and also from a place of non-defensiveness, having communal support around you so that if you make a mistake and you're embarrassed about it, you have people to talk to about that and you don't put it back on the people you've harmed. I'm thinking of, it's not a Jewish book, but Rachel Rickett's book, Do Better, which talks about challenging white supremacy from a spiritual position. And more as a rabbi, I'm talking to people like doing the work of Judaism and doing the work of anti racism. It's not like an add on to the Judaism that now we're engaging in anti racism. It's part of the work of the spiritual practice to become your highest self and to make more justice in the world. That is doing Judaism.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's how you think about it.
I mean, yes, I think about this work as holy work, um, and whether or not that includes God, because I do realize this is you know Adam invited me to speak, so um, not everyone believes in God, but like for me, it's still it's still a connection, right? It's a connection between human beings, and yes, when we're talking about Jewish values, like I mean, some of the original Jews were darker than I am. You know, I understand we came out of Egypt as a mixed group, right? We did leave 80% in Egypt. Not everyone came with us. But those who did, and those Egyptians who also came with us and became part of us, were, um, you know, we're all big mix and looking different than one another. and to take care of each and individual Jew and each individual person who adds something to Jewish community through, I don't know, through intermarriage or through being a sibling or a partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, non-spousal partner, right? Non-spouse partner, I guess. That, we also have an obligation to take care of them, right? Anti-Semitism doesn't just happen to us, right? Anti-Semitism doesn't just happen to white Jews, right? In fact, I don't know many Jews of color who haven't had a full frontal anti-Semitism attack on them or anything like that, but I know tons of white Jews who were like, I read it in books. I thought it was in books. and so, if we are serious about community, if we are serious about taking the lessons from Torah, taking wherever, whether you think it's a great story or you think it's from God themselves, right? That once we take care of each and individual person, we are taking care of the whole. We are taking care of not only our future, but we're helping to stave off the continued impact of residual trauma
Right.
from generations past.
Yeah, and I mean, we're learning more about trauma, both within and outside of Judaism, and how it is so connected to this. So I think it's important that you bring that up, because I think some of the people who cause harm do so because of their own intergenerational and lived trauma experience. Uh, and we know now from thinkers like Resmaa Menakem and others who work in the psychological field around racism and trauma that to actually be anti-racist is to work on your own trauma response to stuff. I think that really means something. We have 3 minutes, so this is a big question for 3 minutes. But do you have things you would suggest in your consulting work? What are some of the things Jewish individuals and communities can be doing right now to become meaningfully anti-racist, as opposed to that watered down, DEI that's not really doing much?
Yeah. So a lot of the work has to do with moving resources around, right? You can't take care of somebody's like spiritual needs if their basic needs aren't being met, right? Spiritual is kind of spiritual needs in a lot of ways, even though they do nourish a person's psyche, they also, are on the back burner when it comes to food, shelter, other things. And so if you're serious about becoming racist, you should really look at the resources you have, network. And before you do, in a lot of ways, but sometimes you can do while you're asking this question, ask people what they need, right? Don't be like the Red Cross during the Haiti earthquake. Don't do that, where you raise billions of dollars and you build 6 sheds and maybe one paved road that nobody wanted, right? Take the resources that you have at your disposal and move them towards a justified end, right? Whether that's putting food in someone's belly, whether that's providing job training or paying interns, right? At the same time, your personal circles are a reflection of your professional and your volunteer circles and all that. If you don't have the skills to be in relationship with a person of color, like person who's or anybody who is like has been traumatized by several things in life, several big systems of oppression, you need to go somewhere to learn those skills, right? I don't care if it's therapy or if it's workshopping, if you need a one-on-one coach, like my organization does all that except for therapy. Therapy, that's a specific thing, but I can probably make a referral. it's up to you to really make sure that your inner circle reflects the justice that you want to see in the world. Because yes, that you're saying that like every single life is a world,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Like you need to change every single world that you meet, and that also gets into like knowing yourself, right? If you're a begrudging person who says things just to get people off your back, well, you're causing harm,
Right.
and you can be a begrudging person all you want, but it's the causing harm part in order to deflect and other things that are damaging to several relationships. Also, I'll just leave this where people need anchors in a community, right? I know that not everyone likes me where I may go for synagogue or whatever. I'm fine with that, but I have anchors. I have people that I can go to, right? And I have people outside, right? Also, I consider myself to be a real insider in a lot of ways. But um, try your best to be the anchor and not the person who swats someone away from a
Mm,
community, because where you're
yeah.
sending them could be far worse. And we want everyone to be inside of our communities and connected to our communities in a positive way. And if they decide to leave our communities because it may not be a good fit for them spiritually, or hopefully it's just spiritually, right?
Jared, I am
Then,
aware we're out of time, so this is the
oh,
last.
yes, as much as we work to welcome people in, we also have to work to welcome people out.
Hmm. Beautifully said. And I think as we mentioned, this is all the work of Judaism, working on ourselves, taking care of people's needs, making sure people have community. I learned so much from you when we met originally, and I'm delighted to keep learning from you. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation. It was great to see you, and happy
Yeah, same.
Shavuot.